Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. Also welcome to part 2 of a very long project that I took up at the beginning of the year, in which I attempt to clear up by Netgalley shelf. Part 1 of this video went up a few days ago. If you'd like to go check that out, link will be here as well as in the description box below. The reason why this video is in 2 parts, something that I mentioned in part 1 as well, is that I kept requesting arcs and I kept getting approved, which is why the list kept getting longer and longer and longer. But we are finally here, we are finally towards the end of this video. So without any further ado, let's dive right into this video and let me share with you the last 8 Netgalley ebooks that I read this year in order to clean up my Netgalley shelf. Hello there, today is the 6th of September and last night, which was a really bad idea in my opinion, I finished reading the next book for this vlog, which was Find Him Where You Left Him Dead by Kristen Simmons. And this is one of the creepiest books I've ever read. I finished reading this at 2:30 a.m. and I was like, what made you decide to read this at this time? And then I got really paranoid and I couldn't sleep. So this is a story of 4 teenagers. They have drifted apart and they are doing whatever they are doing. But a boy from the past who was supposed to have died comes back to haunt them. And he starts telling them that you have to go back, you have to, etc, etc, etc. And so they come back together and now they are harboring resentments with each other. Now they are pushed together in a situation where they have to go back to that place. It was a cave where Ian died 4 years ago. And when they go there, they are sucked into a game called, I think it's called Mado, and they have to do these Jumanji style of quests, and it's one of the most adrenaline inducing, but it's also like so creepy, gory, violent. It just sent goosebumps. Like even talking about it is like I'm shaking. But I think that is the mark of a good novel, that I felt entertained by it even though I was like totally creeped out. I get scared very easily and I think of it as an accomplishment that I actually finished reading this book, and that is while enjoying it. It does get a little repetitive in a couple of places, but it soon picks up, and towards the end, that twist, I was like, what the... So I went on Instagram, I posted a mini review of it on my story, which you'll also find in the highlight. And I asked the author, is there going to be a book 2? And she said yes. There's going to be a book 2, and damn right I'm going to be reading that book. Because I want to know what happened. Now, how did these 4 people get through this? So that was, I think, book number 9 for this vlog. So I'll be starting the next book for this vlog soon, and I'll see you once I finish reading that book. Hi there, today is the 19th of September and a couple of days ago I finished reading another book for this vlog, which is the Book of More Delights by Ross Gay. And I was... to be fair, I did get through 81% of the book before I was like, oh god, no, I cannot move forward with this. And I don't think it is any fault of the author, it's just that the writing style didn't appeal to me. And this book, the Book of More Delights, is a collection of everyday recollections. I mean, it's not in quick succession, but the author has written down, noted down, and wrote essays about things that brought him delight. Some of these are so heartwarming, it just makes your day a little bit brighter. But my problem with this book is that the writing is just so lengthy, and in the sense that every single sentence, it's like the author starts it, then he goes on to remember something, and then he'll stack that on to the end, and then he'll stack something else to the end because he remembered something else. It just felt like that to me. He just says, by which I mean this, 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 and by that, by which I mean this, this, this. Okay, I get it that it's a natural colloquial way of writing, like that's what happens when we talk, like we remember details and then we go off on tangents, but tangential writing does not work that well. It just felt like there was so much to say, and the author decided to do that by tacking on one thing at the end of another. And that's not something that I like, unfortunately. I mean, the premise was really good, what the author is trying to do in this book. It's an otherwise easy read, but this kind of thing, it threw a spanner in the works and it just brought me to a grinding halt. And I'm like, I've gotten through 81%, yes, but I don't think I can get through another 19% of this. So unfortunately, I will be DNFing the book, but I have read enough of the book to form an opinion about it. But that's not to say that you won't like the book, because it's all about personal preference, this writing style. If, like me, you don't want to be shown lines upon lines of afterthoughts, then I don't think this book will work for you. So yeah, that was another book in this vlog. So yeah, I'll see you on the other side. Hi there, today is the 22nd of September, and a couple of days ago, I wouldn't say I finished reading another book for this vlog because I sort of ended up DNFing it as well. But it's not the book's fault, it's just a me thing. The book is called Pockets by Hannah Carlson. I was supposed to be on the blog tour for this, but I got about 18% into it and I realized that this style of writing is just not for me. Pockets is a non-fiction in which Hannah Carlson takes us through the history of pockets, of how pockets started to be included in clothes, how they started off as, and how they evolved and what they evolved into. The writing for me was a little too academic sounding, and there wasn't any interest that I felt in the book. Although if you are into something like this, if you like reading the histories of obscure things or important things like this, because there's a lot of feminist history to this as well, oppressive history as well, then this is one that you can try out. It just wasn't my thing. So that was my update for today. I will see you the next time I finish reading a book. Until then, bye. Hi there, today is the 12th of October and a few days ago I finished reading The Museum of Failures by Triti Umrigar, and it is one of my most favorite books of 2023. It is so beautifully written. It shows so many different parts of human nature, so many different facets of it, about how there are always two sides to a coin, and about how there are different perspectives. We don't always know the truth, etc, etc, etc. And this is the story of Remy Wadia, who has been in America. He hasn't been back to India in 3 years. He comes back hoping to adopt a child and decides to go and visit his mother as an afterthought. But he finds out that his mother is now in hospital. She is very unwell and she has stopped speaking. So he goes to visit her in hospital and he decides to help her recover before returning to America. But there are so many family secrets that come tumbling out when he discovers a photograph in his mother's home. What happens when all of these secrets come out and when his foundations crumble form this entire story. And this book is set in Mumbai, and to the author, she brings together all of what makes Mumbai into this book while interweaving them with human nature, with family secrets, with how we see our parents and how we idolize them, how we try to find that peace, that comfort in our parents' arms. And yet there are so many things that are going on in our parents' lives that we don't know about. And when we actually find out what those things are, it makes us look at them in a different light. When we are younger, we think of them as these very powerful beings, etc, 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 but as we grow up we realize that they are humans and they are doing the best they can. This is just so hard-hitting. This whole parent-child relationship, it brings into the open so much more than what we would even think of. There's love, there's loss, there's forgiveness, there's faith, there's secrets, again that word. And when all of these come together to form a story that is just so brilliantly written, Triti Umrigar, only she can write a story of this magnitude and make it relatable as well as larger than life in its own way. I loved reading this book. This is one of my few 5-star reads of 2023, and if you haven't read any of Triti Umrigar's books so far, let this be the one that you start on her bibliography with. That's how much I love this book. I'll see you once I've read the next book in this vlog. Until then, bye, and please read The Museum of Failures. Hi there, welcome back to this vlog in which I try to clear up my Netgalley shelf, and a few days ago I finished reading another book for this vlog, and that was Fatty Fatty Boom Boom by Rabia Chaudhry. Rabia Chaudhry is an activist, an attorney, an author and a podcast host, and she came into prominence when fighting for Adnan Syed, who was wrongfully accused of killing Heyman Lee. She also wrote a book about it, but this book, Fatty Fatty Boom Boom, is about her story. It's her personal story about her relationship with food, how she grew up with food, and how this very relationship has changed but also not changed, and what it took for her to come to the point where she accepted her body and she started doing things for it to be healthier. And throughout this book there are so many mouth-watering recipes. Like, Pakistani and Indian food are not that different, but also seem starkly different, especially because of the generous use of meat in Pakistani dishes. But even for those dishes, as I read through them, like, my mouth was watering because of all the masala that goes into it. I just felt homesick all of a sudden. Reading about all these desi foods, it just made me yearn for home. That is one thing that Rabia gets very well done in this book. But that is not the crux of the story. The crux of the story is her relationship with eating, her relationship with food, how the society around her, including friends and family, treated her and her body and fat shamed and body shamed her, and how it was growing up in a South Asian family that depended on things like this, that was so patriarchal but also deviated from some of the patriarchal norms. And I really wanted to just go and give Rabia Chaudhry a big hug. But then again, according to the blurb, the author mentions that this is a book about coming to terms with her body as well as making peace with the body that she has. But for almost 80% of it, there was no insight per se. It was just like, these were the foods, I ate this. There were one or two here and there, but it was not as insightful as the blurb would lead you to be. I mean, I am not one to tell someone how to write their memoir, and especially not when the topic itself is a personal relationship with food and a personal relationship with their own body. But it just felt like it was just a list, and then in the last 20% or so, in that also the last 10% is like just recipes. So there was not much insight into what Rabia was thinking, but only that this was happening to her, or she was doing this. It's just that I would have loved some more insight into all of that. But I'll still recommend this book because there's no just one way of getting through these things. This is one book that I'm glad to have read, but I'm also like, I wish there was some more to the book than just this. So that was the 13th book for this vlog. I already started on the next book, so I will see you once I finish reading that next book. Until then, hi there, today is the 30th of November, and just a couple of hours ago I finished reading another book for this vlog, and that book was Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. And going by how old this book actually is, you'll know how long it has been sitting on my Netgalley shelf. It was released in 2021, and at the time when I got an arc of this book, when it was still an arc, I got really excited and I was like, oh my god, this is a Booker Prize winning author. Even though I hadn't liked Shuggy Bain, when I got approved for this, I was over the moon. But then again, something stopped me, and I'm a little annoyed at myself that I didn't read this book for so long. Trigger warnings for this book include rape, alcoholism, homophobia, domestic abuse, and some sexual content. This is the story of Mungo, who is a 15-year-old teenager in Glasgow, Scotland, and he has issues. I feel like Douglas Stewart's main characters all have mommy issues. Mungo's mom, who they call Momo, Maureen Buchanan, she is a drinker, a heavy drinker. She was a young mother. She turned to drink, and she now has the most questionable of choices that she makes in her life. She keeps leaving her 3 children and she keeps going off by herself. She tries to move away to find a life for herself, etc, etc. But now Mungo is here. He is a sweet boy. He is very close to his sister, and he sees the good in everybody. He sees what his mother does, but he still loves her. He wants to take care of her, etc, 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 that whole thing. But what happens when Mungo meets a guy called James and they become best friends and then they fall in love. Given the situation and given that this book is set in the early 90s, there's a lot of homophobia that comes across, and when people find out that Mungo is attracted towards a boy, a man, things go to hell. And now Mungo's mom, Momo, she is now sending him with two men away on what seems to be a fishing trip, but those two men have told her that they could straighten Mungo out, they could make a man out of him and all. And what happens towards the end, how every one of these characters reconciles with what is happening to them, especially obviously young Mungo, forms this entire story. And I am, first off, right off the bat, I must say that I hate Maureen Buchanan. I hate Momo. She is such a selfish, such a character that you wouldn't mind anything happening to her. Although it would break Mungo's heart, obviously. But it just feels like she just looks out for herself. She says things like, I have 3 kids, it's very hard bringing them up. But she's not around half the time. And she is one to complain. So when this whole thing erupts, it just felt very icky to me that she would send Mungo off with some strangers. You don't know what's going to happen. What are they going to do? How can you send your child off with someone like that? And Mungo is a very sweet character. I really liked him. I warmed up to him pretty quick, although I wish that, you know, some of the decisions he takes, some of the actions he takes, they were a little bit more. It just felt like he forgave too easily, he let people in too easily. But then again, what would you expect a 15-year-old guy to do? He is just looking out for himself. He's looking out for the other people in his life as well. And that is saying something. And overall, I feel like this book was written in a very emotional manner, even though some of the violence in this book is so crass. The way people talk to each other, the way people treat their own family. But on the other whole, you see the essence of it. You see the humanity that's, you know, crying to be let out, for people to be seen as human and not another deviant of sorts. This was a surprise, I must say, because Chucky Bane I gave, I think, 2 stars, but this one I'm giving 4.5 stars, and I really liked it, and I'm sure that I will read more of Douglas Stewart's writing in the future. So I'll see you once I finish reading another book. Until then, hi there! Today is the 12th of December and yesterday I finished reading the penultimate book for this vlog, and that was Endpapers by Jennifer Savran Kelly. Set in 2003, this book is about a genderqueer bookbinder called Dawn Levitt who works for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She repairs old books for the museum. She is an artist who hasn't created anything in a while and she feels stuck. Adding to this, society dictates that she express herself as a woman while her partner wishes that she were more of a man, and this sort of pushes her into a corner. While she is battling all of this, she finds a book cover with a queer love letter written on the back under the end papers of a book that she is currently working on, and this cover is of a woman looking into a mirror and the reflection being that of a man's, and Dawn is immediately taken in, and she now wants to dig deeper into this letter, find out who it was from and who it is for. One day when they're out for drinks, 2 men target them as a hate crime, and Dawn's best friend Jay is injured in this attack. And now Dawn fixates even more on this book cover, desperate to find a safe space and desperate to find a world which is kinder than what we are currently living in. I wouldn't call this a brilliantly written book, but it's raw and chaotic and it will resonate with everyone who's trying to find themselves. It is a study in human nature, especially one where we lash out, often unintentionally or unfairly, when we find ourselves in situations that we don't like for ourselves. And Dawn is an example of this because she spends more than half the book treating the people close to her as verbal punching bags. And this makes her mildly unlikable, but look at her from a distance and you will understand every single one of her feelings. Endpapers is Dawn's call for help and her own answer to that call. And I didn't think I would like this book, but I did. And if you usually like books with these subjects, then you should definitely try Endpapers. So that was my 15th book for this vlog, and the next book is going to be the last, and I'm really looking forward to when I have a blank Netgalley shelf something that I was so looking forward to at the beginning of the year. So I'll see you once I finish reading the next book, the last book. Until then, hello there. Today is the 15th of December and night before last I finished reading the last book in this vlog, and that is called Moonrise over New Jessup by Jamila Minix. This is a historical fiction about Black lives and community, and it is set in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. It is set in a time when segregation had just been abolished but racism was rampant. A few years after their mother's death, Alice's sister Rosie runs away, and soon after their father also passes away. Now Alice's landlord, he keeps finding excuses to attack Alice, and she is fed up, so she takes a few possessions along with her and she escapes that town. She gets on the bus intending to go to Chicago because that's where she knows Rosie is, but on the way she finds New Jessup, which is an all-black town which seems too good to be true at the time. But on seeing that it is all real, she decides to stay with the help of a few kind-hearted strangers. So she starts working there and she soon falls in love with Raymond Campbell, who she learns as they go along the way that he is involved in organizing activities to strengthen New Jessup's political standing and to improve the quality of Black life in town. How Alice contends with the political, the social and the personal upheavals that come with living in an all-black town with what seems like paradise forms the rest of the story. The premise itself is fantastic in every way. It shows how a mix and match of ideologies are required in order to further society. It focuses on the importance of discussion, of keeping community, of keeping the larger question in sight when you make any kind of decision, especially with something as important as the question of integration. I especially loved Alice and Raymond's bond, the way they communicated with each other. I mean, there are some characters that I had little patience for, but they were necessary because they had to show the thin line that divides being right and being wrong, and how sometimes there's no being wrong, it's just different ways of being right. But the writing itself I wasn't a huge fan of because it just meanders, it just repeats itself, it goes over and over and over, and that grated at my patience. The thing is, it goes back and forth between using the vernacular and between using poetic sentence structures. It's usually not a problem, but somehow here it just didn't sit cohesively, and there was no bigger conflict that directly affected the characters. I mean, you could argue that whatever was happening, the politics and all, it did affect the characters in some way. They were involved and it was affecting their life, maybe in the bigger picture kind of thing, but somehow it felt like an out of sight, imminent, it's coming, but it's like completely arbitrary kind of thing. And some conflict and some kind of resolution did come, but it was too late, like in the last 3 or 4% if I'm not mistaken. I want something to keep me through the whole book, not just remind me at the end that, look, see, I've given you a conflict. See, in retrospect, there are a lot of important points it makes, be it related to politics, be it related to community or a clashing of opinions, or as a commentary on society. But the way it drags, the way it repeats itself, it folds in over itself and etc, etc, it just somehow didn't work that well with me. It could have been king, but it ended up being a minister in that court. So basically what I'm saying is, it's still important, but not as polished as I would have liked it to be. I would still recommend this book, but I only ask that you show it some patience. So that was my last book for this vlog. I can't believe I'm here. I mean, I know I'm going to go and request for more books, but that will only be in the new year. New year means new resolutions, and my resolution for Netgalley and for arcs is going to be that I read them as soon as I get them. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and I hope that I do. So that was part 2 of me cleaning up my Netgalley shelf. I now have 0 books on my shelf, and it is one of the most relieving things. I mean, that's hyperbole, but you know what I mean. But the first part went up a few days ago, as I've already mentioned. If you'd like to go check that out, link will be in the description box below. So what did you think of these videos? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Have you read any of these books? Which was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.